particularly line by ependymal cell. Okay, ependymal cell, they are particularly ciliated, that is the ciliated in nature. Ciliated columnar epithelium are there present, ciliated columnar epithelium there are present. So that means particularly they push of the particularly CSF, उसका movement कराएंगे from one place to another place वो जाएगा. Okay, particularly this cavity or this paracel cavity present in the particularly cerebral hemisphere. Okay, this cavity is filled with CSF, very important. You know the CSF. What is CSF? That is a cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, cerebrospinal fluid है. Okay, and जो भी particularly वो cavities is lined by the cell, ependymal cell, and ependymal cell and also choroid plexus secrete the particularly CSF. Okay, so also this is about the lateral ventricles. Okay, next about the particularly corpus callosum. Okay, so that means there are two cerebral hemisphere connected through the corpus callosum. Okay, here this is a structure of the particularly corpus callosum. Okay, I'll draw here some structure of the corpus, that is a corpus callosum, and particularly here very important thing, that means थोड़ा elongated type होता है. Okay, like this, थोड़ा elongated type होता है. Okay, also like this, and particularly like fork shape like structure are here present, like fork shape like structure are here present. Okay, this is structure. This part called as the particularly anterior part. Okay, this part called as the posterior part. Okay, here that is a fork like shape here present. Okay, this is called as the fornix. इसको क्या बोलोगे? That is a fork like shape called as the fornix. Okay, this is here fold आ रही है एक, this fold, ये fold आ रही है here, this is called as the genu. इसको क्या बोलोगे? That is a genu. This fold particularly called as the splenium. Okay, that is a splenium. Okay, so that means particularly यहाँ पर जो fold बनती है, this fold called as the splenium, और यहाँ पर जो fold बनती है, this fold called as the particularly genu. Okay, also here one more thing very important, because corpus callosum का part, corpus callosum का क्या function होता है? Particularly they particularly connected, there are through connected particularly to cerebral hemisphere. Okay, तो वहां पर देखो फोल्ड हो रही है तो अपन ने उसको जेनु कहा, और जो फोल्ड हो रही है यहाँ पर अपन ने क्या कहा? दैट इज अ स्प्लेनियम. ओके, एंड ऑल्सो दिस इज अ fork like structure folded here, this is called as the fornix. Okay, here nerve cord is present here. Okay, so this is about the corpus callosum. This is part of the particularly cerebrum. अपन cerebrum ही देख रहे, और cerebrum में ही ये सब कुछ, यानी कि सब some parts है वो डिस्कस कर रहे हैं. Okay, after the corpus callosum, that is a basal nuclei. Basal nuclei also present in the cerebral medulla, in the, that is a cerebral hemisphere. That means particularly there one basal nuclei are present, that is called as the corpus striatum. Okay, nuclei shaped like a band or a strip. Okay, so that means इसका what is exactly function of the corpus striatum? Planning and execution of stereotype movements. समझ लो some objects are present on the particularly floor और वहाँ फैला के है, तो तुम लोग अपन क्या करते हैं कि उसको विदाउट टच अपन मूवमेंट करके वहाँ से क्या होते हैं? बाहर निकलते हैं. क्लियर है? तो दैट्स मीन्स दिस एक्टिविटी particularly जो जहाँ पर अपने मैसेज जाएगा, तो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द कॉर्पस स्ट्राइटम प्रेजेंट इन द cerebral hemisphere. Which part of the cerebral hemisphere? That is a medulla, that is a cerebral medulla. Now about the, also I will already discuss about the particularly exactly lateral view of the human brain. Okay, also one more time, that is very important. Some ideas I will give you already about the particularly lateral view of the human brain, but here also discuss about the in detail lateral view of the human brain. Okay, here one more that is very important. particularly in cerebrum, particularly they in the that is a part of the forebrain, that is a cerebrum, and particularly divided into two cerebral hemisphere, you know the about, and they connected through the corpus callosum. But here each cerebral hemisphere having particularly three prominent type of sulcus. Okay, here I'll particularly discuss about the particularly here about the sulcus. Okay, particularly this type of sulcus in the diagram, this is called as the particularly central, इसको क्या बोलोगे, that is a central sulcus. Okay, this type of sulcus, that means some part of the temporal lobe and some part of the that is occipital lobe and some part of the parietal lobe, that is called as the parieto, that is a parieto occipital, that is a parieto occipital sulcus. Okay, parieto occipital sulcus. Here no doubt this is particularly lateral view देख रहे हैं this sides. Okay, so that means particularly this is called as the particularly lateral, that is a lateral sulcus. Okay, that means particularly exactly I am here. Okay, so that means particularly there are two lateral sides. Okay, then particularly central side, and that is a occipital and that is a parietal. Parietal बीच में होता है, clear है. So that means particularly your frontal view, that is a frontal lobe. Okay, that means particularly this is a frontal lobe and this is a temporal lobe. Okay, there are two temporal lobe. Okay, बीच में जो होता है that is a parietal lobe. Okay, and this is part of that is a behind in the that is a this is a ventral and dorsal part, this is called as the particularly occipital. ये dorsal side के side से देखोगे तो आपको ये मिलेगा that is the occipital. Here one more very important thing, that means particularly here some fold are present. This part you know the exactly I have already discussed about this part. अपन ने इस part को क्या कहा था, you know the about the this part. Or here also linings are present because this part, this is a sulcus and gyrus. In sulcus and gyrus a lots of present in the particularly brain. Okay, so that means ये part को अपन ने क्या कहा था, इसको क्या कहा था, you know the about the particularly this part called as the that is a cerebellum. Okay, you know the about the cerebellum. Okay, this part called as the particularly medulla oblongata. Okay, medulla oblongata. This part called as the pons varolii. You know the about the this part particularly part of the hindbrain. Okay, here very important one more thing that is very important here, some this part called as the particularly I'll just show here in the other color, that is means particularly here present, that is a frontal lobe. Okay, this is particularly about the इसको अपन बोलेंगे that is a frontal lobe. Okay, this is particularly front side से है तो that is a frontal lobe. Okay, this is called as the particularly occipital lobe. Okay, this lobe particularly called as the parietal lobe. Okay, this lobe called as the temporal lobe. Okay, so that means four lobe present in the particularly brain. Okay, temporal तो दोनों साइड से मिलेंगे, there are pair, तो that is a two temporal lobe, दो parietal मिलेंगे, frontal and occipital एक एक मिलेगा. Okay, so that means particularly this is a location of frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe. One more very important here, that means particularly cerebrum, this is particularly about the ये आपका पार्ट जो भी रहेगा इसको अपन क्या बोलेंगे, that is a cerebrum. This is a cerebrum. Okay, you know the about the cerebral cortex particularly here present. That means particularly inside the cerebral cortex are present, and you know the about the medulla. Okay, already we have discussed about the particularly cortex and medulla. This is called as the sulcus and gyrus. Okay, यहाँ पर ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या मिलेगा अपने को, sulcus and gyrus. Okay, because folding है. Okay, because increasing the surface area. Okay, also these foldings, ये यहाँ जो foldings होती है that is a cerebellum में called as the folia. You know the about this is the analogous to the sulcus and gyrus. यहाँ पर folia है, क्लियर है, पर्टिकुलरली यहाँ पर फोलिया है, ये भी एक स्ट्रक्चर इस तरीके से ही होता है, दैट इज अ sulcus and gyrus जैसे. Okay, also this is folding, also folia means that is a folding. Also very important here, that means particularly cerebellum, medulla oblongata and pons varolii is this part of the particularly hindbrain. Okay, here very important also, that means particularly I will tell you about the exactly where is frontal lobe, where is parietal lobe, temporal lobe and occipital lobe. Also this is a functional areas of cerebrum. Okay, that means particularly this is functional, okay, functional areas, okay, functional areas of cerebrum. Okay, this is also very important, functional areas of cerebrum. Here that means functional areas of cerebrum. Here some areas are here present. Okay, one more thing very important, you know the about the, this is a frontal lobe, okay, this is a parietal lobe, particularly this is a occipital lobe and this is called as the temporal lobe. Okay, I will draw in, I'll just make here short में मैंने वहाँ बनाया है, clear है. तो अभी frontal lobes having motor neurons. Okay, because frontal lobes, that means it is the largest lobe. Okay, वो थोड़ा, because there are present motor nerves. Okay, then motor neurons are here present, so that is a motor area. So part is called as the premotor pre part and this the post part. Here one more thing very important, frontal lobe, or particularly all the lobes having association area, and particularly all the lobes having association area or association neurons. Okay, then also frontal lobe having motor neurons, but remaining three, that is a parietal lobe, occipital lobe and temporal lobe, also having association area as well as sensory area, or that is a sensory neuron. Okay, तो that means particularly उनके पास sensation है but frontal lobes के पास नहीं है. तो I'll make here sensories area कहाँ पर है, clear है. तो you know the about exactly here occipital lobe है, optic area है, तो that is a mechanism of vision, you know the about. Then auditory area है, auditory area में there are three functions are very important. One is tongue. Okay, tongue, that is a taste. Okay, ये ऑडिटरी एरिया में ही आएगा, क्लियर है. ऑडिटरी एरिया दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली ये कहाँ पर आ रहा है, टेम्पोरल लोब में आ रहा है, क्लियर है. तो दैट्स मीन्स टंग, ऑल्सो हियर टंग मीन्स टेस्ट. ओके, यहाँ पर देखो आपके इसमें ओल्फैक्टरी एरिया दिया गया है, क्लियर है. ओल्फैक्टरी एरिया दैट इज अ सेंस ऑफ स्मेल, यू नो दी अबाउट एग्जैक्टली. ओके, gustatory area, Broca's area. Okay, and here present that is a vernix area. Broca's area that means particularly Broca's speech area कहा जाता है इसको. That means अपन जो भी बोलते हैं and movement of tongue, larynx and vocal cord. I will told you already about the Broca's area. Vernix area means particularly analyzing and understanding of the particularly क्या बोला है, क्लियर है. देन पर्टिकुलरली गस्टेटरी एरिया मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली टेस्ट. ओके, इट आर लिटिल बिट कंफ्यूज इन पर्टिकुलरली HSC एंड NCERT because NCERT blindly follow the particularly true means. Okay, but HSC says particularly gustatory area present in the temporal lobe. Okay, that means particularly this is this area. Okay, temporal lobe में क्या present है बोलता है HSC, gustatory area, but your NCERT says particularly gustatory area present in the parietal lobe. So that means according to HSC and according to NCERT you will know about the particularly gustatory areas where is present. Okay, so that means जो भी NEET और national level exams थे उसके लिए आप gustatory area where is present, so that means present in the parietal lobe. Okay, that is a parietal lobe में मिलेगा, clear है. This part that is a parietal lobe. Okay, then particularly this part that is a parietal lobe. Okay, according to MHTCT or particularly Maharashtra board examination, that is a HSC, so that means gustatory area present in the temporal lobe. Okay, also one more thing very important here, दिस इज अ पर्टिकुलरली अबाउट द ऑप्टिक एरिया के बारे में बताया मैंने, ब्रोकास एरिया के बारे में बताया, क्लियर है। ऑल्सो दैट्स मीन्स ऑडिटरी एरियाज है, क्लियर है। ऑडिटरी एरिया है मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली वहां पर भी कुछ फंक्शन होगा, क्लियर है। जैसे टेम्पोरल लोब है, टेम्पोरल लोब में यू नो दी पर्टिकुलरली हियरिंग यानी कि जो सुनते हैं वो भी आएगा वहां पर। ऑल्सो स्मेल, ओके, देन पर्टिकुलरली ऑल्सो टेस्ट, ओके। जो पैराइटल लोब है इट इज अ सेंसेशन ऑफ द स्किन, ओके, स्किन दैट इज अ सोमेस्टैटिक सेंसेशन उसको कहा जाता है। तो दैट्स मीन्स पैराइटल लोब जो रहेगा वहां पर स्किन का सेंसेशन मिलेगा। तो दिस इज पर्टिकुलरली सेंसरी एरिया, दिस इज पर्टिकुलरली मोटर एरिया। I have already I will tell you already about the particularly frontal lobes having motor neurons, okay. Frontal lobe, okay, then particularly all the lobes having association neurons, okay, association areas, but remaining three, that is a parietal lobe, occipital lobe and particularly temporal lobe having the particularly that means sensory area or a sensory neurons. Also here functional areas of cerebrum, we will discuss detail about the particularly first frontal lobe, okay. Frontal lobe है, clear है, this is a frontal lobe. इसमें that is you know the that is a here present lot of that is a motor nerves are present or this is a motor area according to this diagram. मैंने इस diagram में आपको explain भी किया, motor neurons present only in the frontal lobe, okay. So that means particularly also here present association area and Broca's speech area. Now control of skeletal muscle, first that is a that means what is exactly function of the particularly frontal lobe, that is a function of the first that is a frontal lobe controls skeletal muscle. So that means particularly voluntary muscles, you know the skeletal muscle is voluntary in action, okay. Basal nuclei also here present and they present particularly ventrolateral side, you know the I will जब मैंने ब्रेन का एक सेक्शन कट किया था और फ्रंट व्यू से अपन ने उसको देखा था यानी कि कट करके, तो बेसल न्यूक्लियर प्रेजेंट दैट इज अ ventrolateral side, okay. So that means you know the about the exactly location of the basal nuclei. Basal nuclei that is also already discussed about the that is a corpus striatum, clear है। तो कार्पस स्ट्राइटम एंड ऑल्सो दैट इज अनदर न्यूक्लियाई दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द लेंटिकुलर न्यूक्लियाई। लेंटिकुलर न्यूक्लियाई और अ कार्पस स्ट्राइटम समझ लो ये डैमेज हो गई तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली लीड इनटू द पार्किंसंस डिसीज, ओके। एंड लेंटिकुलर न्यूक्लियाई ऑल्सो प्रेजेंट इन दी पर्टिकुलरली बेसल न्यूक्लियाई। तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली ये टाइप्स है उसके, क्लियर है, इट इज अ कंपोनेंट्स और अ टाइप्स, क्लियर है। तो दैट्स मीन्स वो क्या कर लेते हैं, दैट इज अ विल्सन डिसीज। विल्सन डिसीज मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली यहाँ पर जो भी होता है वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट लिवर का डीजनरेशन, ओके, दैट इज अ लिवर डीजनरेशन। विल्सन डिसीज मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली लिवर डीजनरेशन, ओके। एंड पार्किंसन डिसीज मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली ये जो हैंड ऑल्सो दैट इज अ प्रॉब्लम इन पर्टिकुलरली प्रॉब्लम इन ऑल्सो हैंड्स लेग्स, ओके। दैट्स मीन्स उसके अंदर जो मूवमेंट ऑल्सो फेसियल में भी प्रॉब्लम आता है यानी कि वो एक तरीके से उसमें थोड़ा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट और रिलैक्सेशन में प्रॉब्लम होना और बहुत ज्यादा पेन होता है, क्लियर है। तो दैट्स मीन्स पार्किंसंस डिसीज, ओके। एक तरीके से वो मूवमेंट्स भी हो यानी कि मूवमेंट्स वो अच्छी नहीं होती है, क्लियर है, यानी कि बहुत ही प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट होता है वहां पर दैट इज अ लिम्स में, ओके। तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली पार्किंसंस डिसीज ऑल्सो ये जो होता है दैट इज द डैमेज वो क्यों होता है, दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली देयर इज नो सिक्रेशन ऑफ द डोपामिन यानी कि डिक्रीजिंग सिक्रेशन ऑफ द डोपामिन बिकॉज इट इज अ न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर। वो एक तरीके से इन मीडियम लेवल पे वो सिक्रेट होना चाहिए बट उसका डिक्रीज यानी कि सिक्रेशन का लेवल डिक्रीज हो गया तो ऑब्वियसली लीड इनटू द पार्किंसन डिसीज, ओके। देन दैट इज अ एसोसिएशन एरिया। एसोसिएशन एरिया present in the all the lobes, okay. That means intelligence, okay, reasoning power और reasoning method solve करने यानी कि जो भी अपन देखते हैं वगैरह तो उस तरीके से वो reasoning solve होगा, logical thinking, okay, also calculation, okay. Then particularly Broca speech area, जब भी अपन बोलेंगे टुडे अभी मैं भी बोल रहा हूँ पर्टिकुलरली तो ऑब्वियसली कंट्रोल मसल ऑफ टंग, okay, tongue and also lips, jaws and vocal cords. Okay, तो that means movements and controls होगा particularly मसल में. तो that means particularly about the frontal lobe, और frontal lobe में एक तरीके से क्या present है, motor area and that is the association area and Broca's speech area. Okay, तो I will tell you about the exactly what about the areas already. So that means this phenomena, it's very simple to understand, particularly lobes, areas and function. Also now next about the particularly that is lobes, parietal lobes. Okay, parietal lobes, there are present area that is a somesthetic area, that means sensation of the skin. So that means here touch, temperature, pressure, sensation of the skin. So it is located in the particularly parietal lobe. Okay, then here also that is a association area, means particularly manual skills are there present. Okay, यानी कि associate करेगा उसको manual skill को. Okay, then temporal lobe here, that is a olfactory area are present, that is a sensation. I have already discussed about the particularly olfactory area, sensation or a perception of the smell. Okay, so that is a nose. Okay, then particularly auditory area, sensation of that is a sound by the organ, that is a ear. Okay, gustatory area, sensation of taste by your nose. Okay, sensation of taste, sorry here not a that means particularly sensation of taste, that is a tongue. Okay, so that means particularly here sensation of taste, that is a tongue. Okay, also association area, that means deals with the memory. ओके, यानी कि पास्ट में क्या हुआ, यानी कि पास्ट में जो भी पर्टिकुलरली टंग, ईयर क्या सुना था, ओके, कौन सा स्मेल एंड पर्टिकुलरली कौन सा टेस्ट, तो ये सब कुछ यानी कि एसोसिएशन एरिया वहां पर डील करेगा विद द मेमोरी. ओके, देन पर्टिकुलरली you know the about the gustatory area according to HSC and according to NCERT. Gustatory area according to HSC present in the temporal lobe and according to NCERT present in the parietal lobe. You know the about, I will already discuss about the particularly this little bit confusion. Okay, so that means also another, that is the occipital lobe. Occipital lobe there are present, that is the optic area, that means vision, that means eye. Okay, so that means particularly you know the mechanism of vision अपन देख सकते हैं. Okay, so that is a visual memory also are there present, because also there are association area also there are present. So that means this is particularly about the all the functional areas of the cerebrum and particularly about the all the functions about the lobes. Okay, we will discuss about already about the associations areas, motor areas and particularly sensory area, about the exactly that is the functional areas of cerebrum. Now third part of the particularly forebrain, that is called as the diencephalon. Okay, तो जो third part है उसका, that is called as the diencephalon. Okay, diencephalon also part of the that is a forebrain. Here very important ये है कि इस तरीके से एक structure है, that is a diencephalon का, like this. Clear है? That means अपने को यहाँ पर एक floor मिलेगा, that is a roof of cavity like this. Okay, and particularly यहाँ पर अपने को कुछ like this, sorry for that, like this and also one roof like this. Okay, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि ये बड़ा बनाया है तो इसलिए वो बड़ा है. क्लियर है? ये समझना है आप लोगों को, like this. Okay, so that means particularly here some part of the particularly diencephalon. Okay, here present, that is a ventricle, that is a third ventricle, that is called as the, यहाँ पर ये दो सेरिब्रल हेमिस्फीयर होते हैं जिसके बीच में कनेक्शंस होता है थ्रू दी, कनेक्टेड थ्रू दी, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज दी हेबेनक्युलर कमीशर. ओके, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज दी हेबेनक्युलर कमीशर. यू नो दी अबाउट. क्लियर है? कमीशर्स मीन्स यू नो दी गैंग्लियोनिक नर्व इन दी पर्टिकुलरली अपन ने पढ़ा है, दैट इज अ कॉकरोच के इसमें. क्लियर है? ऑल्सो दैट इज अ गैंग्लियोनेटेड नर्व, दैट इज ऑल्सो इन अर्थवॉर्म. क्लियर है? तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली हेबेनकुलर कमीशर से जो दोनों जो लैटरल वॉल है उसको क्या करके रखा है, उसने पकड़ के रखा है. ओके, दिस इज वन इज that is the roof of cavity and this is also one cavity. Okay, and this is also, that means divided into एक तरीके से 3 parts. Okay, तो here diencephalon में, that means very important here, जो है diencephalon, it is made up of, or a particularly one is outer matter and one is inside matter. Okay, here gray matter present inside. Okay, here gray matter present inside and white matter present outside. Very important. So that means इसके inside, diencephalon के inside particularly दो matters present है. One is gray matter and another is white matter. White matter belonging to the outside the portion. Okay, and particularly gray matter belonging to the inside the portion. Here that means particularly here something present, that means it is divided into part. This upper part, that is a floor. Okay, तो that means ये upon एक level पे है और एक upon है, तो that is called as the epithalamus. Okay, epithalamus. Then particularly also, that means particularly here this portion called as the thalamus. Okay, and particularly having the thalamic nuclei. Okay, और यहाँ पर कुछ thalamic nuclei है. Okay, this is a lateral wall. Okay, and here present particularly third ventricle, here present, that is a third ventricle called as diocele. You know the about diocele. Okay, we will discuss about the one more time about the how many ventricles are there present. You know the about particularly 4 types of ventricles are there present, but classified into 3 categories. So that means particularly ventricles means particularly ventricles having CSF fluid. Okay, that means they filled with CSF fluid. Okay, and empty spaces called as the ventricles in the brain. Okay, and empty spaces called as the in the spinal cord called as the central canal. Okay, so there are 2 terminologies, and this portion, this is also one cavity, or this is a roof of cavity. This is called as the hypo. Okay, so this is part of the particularly diencephalon. Okay, here one more very important thing, that means epithalamus, also about the thalamus and hypothalamus. Now also I will told you that is the thalamus, hypothalamus and epithalamus. Also here very important present here present, that is called as the choroid plexus. Okay, that is called as the anterior, that is called as the anterior choroid plexus here. Okay, you know the anterior choroid plexus particularly secretes CSF. You know the about ependymal cell and choroid plexus secrete the CSF. Then particularly epithalamus and hypothalamus. Epithalamus, that means divided diencephalon. Okay, diencephalon particularly consist क्या करता है, 3 part. You know the about 3 parts. One is that is a roof of cavity है, एक फ्लोर पे है, फ्लोर पे हाइपोथैलामस है, एंड पर्टिकुलरली जो मिडल है जो है वहाँ पर लैटरल पार्ट है. रूफ ऑफ दैट इज इन दिस पार्ट कॉल्ड एज द पर्टिकुलरली ईपीथैलामस. अपर पार्ट है तो अपन उसको ईपीथैलामस. लैटरल पार्ट पे अपने को मिल रहा है पर्टिकुलरली दिस इज लैटरल पार्ट. ओके, एंड देयर प्रेजेंट थैलामिक न्यूक्लियाई. ओके, यहाँ पर जो प्रेजेंट होती है दिस इज कॉल्ड एज द thalamic nuclei. Okay, thalamic nuclei also there are present particularly, or thalamus sensory there are present sensory neuron. जो ये जो lateral पे है that is a thalamus है, और obviously they are sensory neuron are there present. Okay, so that means sensory neurons are there present in the particularly thalamus. They are particularly also act as a that is a reticular activating system are there present. Okay, that means particularly all sensory filter all sensory impulse except olfactory. Okay, यानी कि olfactory में जो भी जा रहे हैं यानी कि जो भी sensory impulse है उसको filtrate नहीं करेगा, लेकिन जो भी बाकी इसमें जितने भी sensory है जो भी लोब्स में जितने भी सेंसरी है यानी कि सेंसरी न्यूरॉन्स है और सेंसरी इम्पल्स है उसको फिल्ट्रेट करेगा. देन फ्लोर पे प्रेजेंट है, फ्लोर पे दैट इज प्रेजेंट है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द hypothalamus. You know the hypothalamus. Okay, about that is a hypothalamus. अभी hypothalamus are there present. Okay, hypothalamus के बाद here hypothalamus that means particularly ये है, ये जो स्ट्रक्चर है दिस इज कॉल्ड एज द हाइपोथैलामस एंड पर्टिकुलरली यहाँ से ही जो लीड होता है वो लीड इनटू द पर्टिकुलरली ये जो होता है दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड. यू नो द सुप्रीम दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द हाइपोथैलामस, और तुम ऐसे भी बोल सकते हो दैट इज द फादर ऑफ ऑल ग्लैंड्स. ओके, दे आर द एक्टिवेटिंग, दे आर द पर्टिकुलरली इनिबिट एंड पर्टिकुलरली सम फैक्टर्स क्रिएट एंड पर्टिकुलरली वो फैक्टर जो भी होंगे वो किसको यानी कि किसको स्टिमुलेट करेंगे, दैट इज अ पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड को. ओके, एंड दिस पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड particularly stimulate and particularly secrete hormone. Okay, so that means particularly hypothalamus non glandular in nature, एक तरीके से ग्लैंडुलर इन नेचर नहीं है, नॉन ग्लैंडुलर है, क्लियर है, बट न्यूरो एंडोक्राइन इन नेचर. कैसा है वो, दैट इज अ न्यूरो एंडोक्राइन इन नेचर है. ओके, यानी कि दिस hypothalamus secrete neurohormone. Okay, this is not a glandular in nature, this is a non glandular in nature. Okay, also here present that is association neurons here present, that is association neurons. Okay, in the particularly neuroendocrine, that means this is a neuroendocrine in nature, so obviously there are present association neurons. Okay, here so this is a Diencephalon structure, whereas that is the roof of cavity, lateral wall. Okay, here this is a lateral wall और lateral wall पे क्या present है, floor पे क्या present है, अभी अपन ने सबकी बात की है. Okay, also यहाँ पर एक ऐसे थोड़ा सा कोन लाइक स्ट्रक्चर होता है, that is means cone like structure are there present in the particularly here areas, and this part called as the pineal body. Pineal body, it is a particularly gland, it is a glandular in nature, secrete to hormone serotonin and melatonin. Serotonin particularly maintain or particularly regulates the metabolic activities. Okay, वहां पर क्या होगा, particularly metabolic जो भी activities रहेंगी उसको वो control करेगा. क्लियर है, कंट्रोल बोल सकते हो, और मेटाबॉलिक जो भी एक्टिविटीज होंगी उसके सेरोटोनिन उस पे एक्ट करेगा. देन आल्सो मेलाटोनिन it is a hormone, and melatonin also called as the sleep hormone. Okay, sleep hormone means particularly जब लाइट ऑफ होंगी तो दैट्स मीन्स particularly secretion होगा, secretion of melatonin, और अपने को नींद आएगी. ओके, तो दैट्स मीन्स एंड particularly एक तरीके से वो बायोलॉजिकल रिदम साइकिल और सर्कैडियम रिदम साइकिल वहां पर 24 आवर्स की अपने बायोलॉजिकल साइकिल भी बोलते हैं उसको, वो फॉर्म होंगी. ओके, तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली हियर पीनियल बॉडी के बारे में बताया मैंने, एंड पर्टिकुलरली पीनियल बॉडी प्रेजेंट पर्टिकुलरली रूफ ऑफ कैविटी, यानी कि रूफ है, कैविटी बनी है, एक रूफ है वहां, तो दैट्स मीन्स आल्सो पीनियल बॉडी कॉल्ड एज द दिस टाइप ऑफ ग्लैंड कॉल्ड एज द ईपीफाइसिस. ओके, एंड पर्टिकुलरली हियर हाइपोथैलामस है तो अपन उसको क्या बोल सकते हैं, दैट इज अ हाइपोफाइसिस. ओके, एंड पर्टिकुलरली यू नो दी अबाउट द पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड. पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड lodges in the cavity, this cavity called as the sella turcica. Okay, so that means ये एक तरीके से ये क्या है, that is a pituitary gland. You know that is a pituitary gland है. तो here that means particularly exactly location of the particularly diencephalon, clear है, it is अपन ने देखा है, it is present below the corpus callosum and above the midbrain. It is present below the corpus callosum, above the midbrain. This is very important. Okay, प्रेजेंट, दिस इज अपन बात किसकी कर रहे हैं, तो दैट इज अ डायंसेफेलॉन की, प्रेजेंट बिलो द कार्पस कैलोसम अबाउ द मिड ब्रेन. Okay, now the function of the epithalamus and hypothalamus. Okay, and you know the about the thalamus के बारे में आपको मैंने lateral wall पे है, they are sensory neuron, और वहाँ पर that is a RAS, that is a reticular activating system are there present. तो that means particularly all sensory जो भी effect है उसको क्या करेगा, वो impulse को filter करेगा. Okay, except one, that is the olfactory जो भी रिसेप्टर्स रहेंगे, ओल्फैक्टर रिसेप्टर उसमें. ओके, यानी कि उसको फिल्ट्रेट नहीं करेगा वो. फ्लोर. ओके, अभी अपन बात करते हैं हाइपोथैलेमस. हाइपोथैलेमस कंटेनिंग सम सेंटर. वन इज दैट इज अ थर्मोरेगुलेटरी सेंटर, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. थर्मोरेगुलेटरी सेंटर also to secrete neurohormone. Then also there are present appetite center, very important. Also there satiety center also there present, that is a satisfaction. फूड कब खाना है, फूड खाने के बाद, यानी कि पर्टिकुलरली अपने को समझ में आएगा कि हाँ यहाँ पर सेटिस्फैक्शन हुआ है कि अब अभी अपन वो फूड नहीं खाएंगे. ओके, ऑल्सो देयर आर थर्स्ट सेंटर. ओके, क्या क्या प्रेजेंट होते हैं वहां पर, थर्स्ट सेंटर मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली जब कब पानी पीना है कब नहीं पीना है वो वहां पर रहेगा. कहां पर, हाइपोथैलेमस. ओके, ऑल्सो देयर आर प्रेजेंट ऑस्मो रेगुलेटरी सेंटर, ऑस्मो रेगुलेशन. ओके, बिकॉज एडीएस सीक्रेट. ओके, वेरी स्ट्रेस कंडीशंस रहेगी तब वो एक्ट करेगा एज ए ऑस्मो रेगुलेशन. तो दैट्स मीन्स वहां से यानी कि पर्टिकुलरली एब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ वाटर हो जाएगा. ओके, थ्रू दी दैट इज अ एडीएच हार्मोन रहेगा वहां पर. ओके, देन ऑल्सो very important, act as a thermostat. Act as a thermostat means particularly temperature, body का temperature वो क्या करेगा, टेम्परेचर जो भी है बॉडी का टेम्परेचर क्या करेगा, दैट इज अ मेंटेन करेगा. ओके, नाउ अभी ये हो गया हाइपोथैलेमस के बारे में. नाउ अबाउट द एपिथैलेमस. Epithalamus, that means it is a non-nervous part. Okay, there is no neurons are present, that is called as the non-nervous part. Okay, also there are particularly there are present some epithelial tissues and particularly ependymal cell. Ependymal cell secrete ependymal cell there are present, that means they are secrete CSF. Also anterior choroid plexus भी are there present, that means particularly वो cavity के ऊपर में present है, तो that means particularly secrete also CSF. Then also ये तो बात हो गई इसके बारे में, that is anterior choroid plexus and particularly about the यहाँ पर एक और है that is called as the ependymal cells. तो epithalamus के अंदर that is the epithelial tissues are there present and ependymal cells are there present. Okay, also I will told you about the penile body के बारे में मैंने बता दिया है आपको, क्लियर है. What is exactly, there are secrete two hormones, serotonin and melatonin. Serotonin hormone, that means particularly involved in the activities of the metabolic. Okay, and also melatonin, that means also called as the sleep hormone. I will told you particularly what is exactly called as the sleep hormone. Okay, and particularly there are also perform or there are present biological cycle. Okay, or also called as the circadian cycle. Okay, so this is about the particularly Diencephalon. Okay, now about the limbic system. Okay, what is exactly limbic system? Very important also, that is a limbic system. Limbic system, it is very simple. अभी अपन ने देखा है कि हाइपोथैलेमस है, हाइपोथैलेमस के सराउंडिंग some nucleus or around some nuclei are there present. Okay, so some various, that is a various nuclei. Okay, that is a nuclei, sorry, various nuclei around the hypothalamus, called as around the hypothalamus. Okay, तो various यहाँ पर क्या present है, various nuclei around the hypothalamus. Limbic system also called as the emotional brain. इसको क्या कहा जाता है, that is a emotional, very important, emotional brain भी कहा जाता है. It is very important. Also one more very important here, that means particularly यहाँ पर एक nuclei present होती है, that is called as the amygdala. That is called as the amygdala. Okay, इट इज ऑलमंड शेप लाइक स्ट्रक्चर होता है इसका, दैट इज ऑलमंड शेप लाइक स्ट्रक्चर होता है। हाइपोथैलेमस अभी देखा है अपन ने, फ्लोर जो भी दैट इज द लास्ट पार्ट था, दैट इज द डायनसेफेलॉन का फ्लोर ऑफ फ्लोर जो था वहां पर क्या प्रेजेंट था, दैट इज द हाइपोथैलेमस। तो दैट मीन्स अमाइगडेला almond shape like structure there are present and particularly ये एक तरीके से control the emotions, ये क्या control करता है, that is a emotions, okay, fear and aggression, control of emotion, control of emotions, control the emotion of fear and aggression, very important। अग्रेशन एंड फियर को वो क्या कर रहा है, पर्टिकुलरली एक तरीके से कंट्रोल कर रहा है। देन ऑल्सो सेकेंड न्यूक्लियाई आर देयर प्रेजेंट कॉल्ड एज द हिप्पोकैम्पस, ओके, हिप्पोकैम्पस दैट मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली ऑल्सो दिस इज हिप्पोकैम्पस ऑल्सो दैट इज द न्यूक्लियाई एंड पर्टिकुलरली कन्वर्ट्स शॉर्ट टर्म मेमोरी, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, कन्वर्ट्स शॉर्ट टर्म memories into long term memories, okay। तो you know about the gajni, that means वो जल्दी जल्दी भूल जाता था और पर्टिकुलरली फिर उसको याद आ जाता था, तो दैट्स मीन्स वो क्या होता था, कन्वर्ट शॉर्ट टर्म मेमोरीज इनटू दी लॉन्ग टर्म मेमोरीज। तो दैट्स मीन्स जो भी उसकी शॉर्ट यानी कि उसको कुछ याद रहता था और कुछ याद नहीं रहता था, इसलिए वो फोटो खींच के रखता था, क्लियर है। तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली हिप्पोकैम्पस आल्सो converts the short term memories in the long term memories। Also here present that is a nuclei accumbens, okay, very important, that is a accumbens, okay, nuclei accumbens are there also present and particularly also shows the that is a reward pathway। तो दैट्स मीन्स जब भी अपन ने कुछ किया तो यू नो दी अबाउट दी फील गुड, ओके, एक तरीके से ये न्यूरोनल पाथवे भी कहा जाता है इसको। मेजर यहाँ पर जो डोपामाइन एक न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर होता है, क्लियर है, प्रेजेंट होता है यहाँ पर डोपामाइन न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर आर देयर प्रेजेंट एंड वो क्या करता है, एक तरीके से ये न्यूक्लियर एक्यूबेंस एक तरीके से फील गुड, ओके, यानी कि फील गुड आता है। ऑल्सो सम ड्रग्स अब्यूज, यानी कि वो लेने के बाद उनको फील अच्छा होता है, अल्कोहलिक ऑल्सो दैट इज अ ड्रग अब्यूज जो होते हैं, ओके। तो दिस इज अबाउट द पर्टिकुलरली लिम्बिक सिस्टम एंड लिम्बिक सिस्टम प्रेजेंट various nuclei arrange the hypothalamus, okay, arrange various nuclei arrange various nuclei arrange in the hypothalamus, okay। so this is about the limbic system। now next about the midbrain, okay, forebrain के बारे में अपन ने पूरी डिटेल में स्टडी की है। now next about the midbrain के अंदर that is the first part that is called as the corpora quadri, that is a corpora quadrigemina, you know the about, okay, it is the major part of the midbrain, okay, is the major part of the midbrain। very important here, particularly there are two superior here टू सुपेरियर यहाँ पर अपने को बॉडी मिलती है, क्लियर है। इसके अंदर देयर आर टू सुपेरियर बॉडी, दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली दिस बॉडी कॉल्ड एज द सुपेरियर that is superior colliculus, very important, that is called as the colliculus, okay। also it is a larger one and particularly smaller one यहाँ मिलती है, okay, this is called as the inferior colliculus, that is called as the inferior colliculus। then superior colliculus it's particularly related with the visual reflexes, very important, okay। inferior colliculus that means also it is related with particularly auditory reflexes, you know the about, okay, auditory reflexes. तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली विजुअल रिफ्लेक्सेस है कि अपने को जब साउंड आया एकदम से अपने ऊपर लाइट आया तो अपन अपना हेड अच्छे से टर्न करेंगे, क्लियर है, बिकॉज हियर दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली हियर यहां से एक ऑप्टिक नर्व लाइक दिस, ओके, लाइक दिस, तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली इस तरीके से ऑप्टिक नर्व होती है और वो दोनों को एक तरीके से क्या करती है, यहां से देखो बाइंड्स हो रही है यहां पर, दैट्स मीन्स इट इज कॉल्ड एज द ऑप्टिक chiasma. This is called as the optic chiasma. So that means superior colliculus, it is related with the visual reflex, okay. Also particularly inferior colliculus, that means particularly you know the about the ear. Auditory है तो sound आएगा, okay. Now about the cerebral peduncles, you know the about the crura cerebri, okay. तो अपन that is a cerebral पेडंकल्स, और अपन इसको ही कहेंगे अकॉर्डिंग टू योर HSC बुक, दैट इज अ क्रूरा सेरेब्री, you know the about exactly what is cerebral peduncles or crura cerebri, okay. Here it is a white nerve fibers, particularly white nerve fibers which connect, it is a white nerve fibers which connects hindbrain to the that is a hindbrain to the forebrain, very important, that is a hindbrain to the forebrain, okay. That is a forebrain तक यानी कि कनेक्शन जो भी रहेगा वहां पर क्या रहेगा, that is a crura cerebri. Also here present particularly that means in the particularly cerebral peduncles also pair there are present substantia, that is a substratia nigra, that is a nuclei, dark color nuclei are there present, and particularly there are also present dopamine neurotransmitter, because involuntary जो भी एक्शन रहेगी इनिबिट करेंगे उसको, क्लियर है. एंड ऑल्सो यहाँ पर होता है दैट इज अ आइटर, ओके, दैट इज अ नैरोअर डक्ट, दैट इज अ आइटर और एक्विडक्ट पर्टिकुलरली ऑफ सिल्वियस, ओके, ये अपन पढ़ेंगे, दैट इज अ वेंट्रिकल्स में connects third ventricle to fourth ventricle. So that means particularly also there are present relay center, okay. So that means receive the particularly sensory receive particularly sensory यानी कि जो भी मैसेज आ रहा है, क्लियर है, जो भी मैसेज आ रहा है पर्टिकुलरली उसको वो रिसीव करेगा. तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली अबाउट द सेरेब्रल पेडंकल्स एंड कॉर्पोरा क्वाड्रिजेमिना. Okay, now about the hindbrain, and first part of the hindbrain, that is this is particularly cerebellum, okay. You know the about the cerebellum. This is a structure of the particularly cerebellum, and cerebellum also having two cerebral hemisphere, okay. You know that is a folia, I will told you in particularly lateral view of human brain, okay. Folia, so that means analogous to that is a sulci and gyri, okay. Cerebellum also called as the cerebellum also called as the little cerebrum भी कहा जाता है, इसको little cerebrum भी कहा जाता है, क्लियर है. Then also it is present between occipital lobe and medulla oblongata, okay. Second largest region in the brain and well developed in human, okay. तो ब्रेन का ये टोटल पार्ट कंसिस्ट करता है पर्टिकुलरली 11%, ओके. यहाँ पर 11% यू नो दी अबाउट दी 80 to 85% कवर बाय दी सेरेब्रम, ओके. ये 11% जो भी टोटल यानी कि टोटल जो भी ब्रेन का वेट हो गया तो उसमें से 11% किसका होता है, दैट इज अ सेरेबेलम का. तो ये एक हमेशा ध्यान में रखने का, ओके. वर्मिस यहाँ पर एक मीडियन है, ओके. Also इसका एक सेक्शन ले अपन कट करके देखे तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली दिस इज स्ट्रक्चर मिल रहा है, एक ट्री लाइक ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर मिल रहा है, क्लियर है. तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली दिस इज स्ट्रक्चर यानी कि होल स्ट्रक्चर कॉल्ड एज दैट इज अ arbor vitae, also called as the tree of life. Inner matter, particularly inner matter called as the white matter, okay, that is, it is also divided into two parts, that is a cerebral medulla and cerebral cortex. Okay, cerebral, that is a gray matter, it is the outer part. Okay, inside part, that is a white matter. So that means particularly hind brain का first part है, that is the cerebellum. Also some function of particularly cerebellum particularly controls involuntary movement जो भी होगा वो कंट्रोल करेगा. देन also maintaining balance and posture, क्लियर है, यानी कि बैलेंस और पोस्चर को मेंटेन करेगा. also particularly जो भी ड्रग्स ले रहे हैं या पर्टिकुलरली अल्कोहलिक पर्सन है, तो फर्स्ट उसके, यानी कि अल्कोहलिक पर्सन और ड्रग्स अब्यूज है, तो अल्कोहलिक पर्सन दैट इज द मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंट और मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, कि अल्कोहलिक जो भी है, यानी कि अल्कोहलिक पर्सन है, तो उसके पहले सेरेबेलम पे अटैक होगा और वो अपना बॉडी का टेम्परेचर जो भी है वो मेंटेन नहीं कर पाएगा. ओके, तो दिस इज अबाउट द सेरेबेलम. Okay, now about the particularly pons varoli. It is present below the cerebrum and in front of, that is a cerebellum. Cerebellum above the medulla oblongata. तो अपने को वहाँ पर above just medulla oblongata के just थोड़ा ऊपर मिलता है. यहाँ पर particularly pneumotoxic center होता है, particularly वो एक तरीके से यानी कि डेप्थ ऑफ जो भी रेट है, क्लियर है, दैट इज अ डेप्थ ऑफ रेट है, उसको वो कंट्रोल करता है. दैट इज अ कंट्रोल द रेट डेप्थ ऑफ, दैट इज अ ब्रीदिंग पर्टिकुलरली वह स्विच ऑफ करता है पर्टिकुलरली, यानी कि उसके आगे नहीं जाने देता है. मेडुला ऑब्लोंगेटा में भी सेंटर होता है एंड पर्टिकुलरली पॉन्स वरोली में भी होता है, क्लियर है. तो एक तरीके से कंट्रोल द रेट एंड डेप्थ ऑफ द ब्रीदिंग. ओके, तो दैट इज अ न्यूमोटॉक्सिक सेंटर, यानी कि स्विच ऑफ हो जाएगा और अपन ज्यादा इनहेल नहीं कर पाएंगे, क्लियर है, इनहेल और एक्सहेल चालू रहेगा अपना. देन मेडुला ऑब्लोंगेटा, क्लियर है, मेडुला ऑब्लोंगेटा इट इज एब्लॉन्ग और एक नैरो है, क्लियर है, एक्सटेंड इनटू द स्पाइनल कॉर्ड, यू नो द अबाउट. ग्रे मैटर प्रेजेंट इनर साइड एंड व्हाइट मैटर प्रेजेंट आउटसाइड. आल्सो देयर आर प्रेजेंट fourth number of ventricle, that is called as the metacil. Okay, also here present, that is a posterior choroid plexus, very important. यहाँ पर जो present होता है, that is called as the, in the medulla oblongata, that is called as the posterior choroid plexus. Okay, posterior choroid plexus, you know the about secrete, ये क्या secrete करता है, secretes CSF, cerebro, that is a cerebro spinal fluid, you know the about the cerebro spinal fluid, क्या secrete करता है वो, CSF. Okay, also here some functions are there present. Respiratory center are there present, vomiting center are there present. Also there are present circulatory center. Also there are present defecation, that is a defecation center. Also there are present urination center. Okay, also there are present vasometer center. Vasometer center means particularly जो भी blood vessels है, blood vessels में blood का flow, यानी कि particularly वो involuntary है, अपन उसको control नहीं कर सकते, तो उसका blood flow वो कैसे हो रहा है, अंडर दी वासोमीटर सेंटर भी यहाँ पर क्या प्रेजेंट है, मेडुला ऑब्लोंगेटा में. तो मैं एक तरीके से आपको बता देता हूँ कौन कौन से सेंटर प्रेजेंट है. सेंटर प्रेजेंट इन दी मेडुला ऑब्लोंगेटा. ओके, मेडुला ऑब्लोंगेटा में कौन कौन से सेंटर आर देयर प्रेजेंट. तो अपन ने एक बात की है, दैट इज अ रेस्पिरेटरी सेंटर. ओके, also that is a circulatory center. Also third called as the vomiting center. Also fourth, that is called as the defecations, that is a defecation center. Also there are present vasometer, that is a vasomotor, that is a vasomotor center. Also they are the involuntary in action. Also there are present particularly cardiac center. Also there are present, that is the cardiac center. Also there are present, very important about the vomiting तो मैंने बता दिया. There are also swallowing center, that is a swallowing center. Also there are एक बोल सकते हो कि एक तरीके से ये involuntary action है. तो center present in the medulla, this type of बहुत ज्यादा सेंटर वहां पर प्रेजेंट है, बट मेन यहाँ पर है दैट इज अ रेस्पिरेटरी सर्कुलेटरी. बिकॉज तुम्हारा ब्रेन पूरा डेथ है, क्लियर है, बट तुम्हारा मेडुला ऑब्लिंगेटा अच्छा है, तो दैट्स मीन्स पर्टिकुलरली यू आर इन कोमा. ओके, आप लोग किस में हो, कोमा में हो. तो दिस इज अबाउट द पर्टिकुलरली मेडुला ऑब्लिंगेटा. Okay, now about the particularly ventricles of brain. Okay, you know the about the empty spaces in the brain called as the particularly empty spaces called as the ventricles. That is some there are present fluid. Okay, here present, that is CSF. Okay, you know the about I will told you already about the CSF. Okay. Here one more thing very important, empty spaces in brain called as the ventricles, and particularly empty spaces in the spinal cord called as the central canal. Okay, but here empty spaces called as the cavities, this is the cavities or this portion called as the particularly ventricles cavity, and here present some ventricles, and particularly they are functioning in nature. Okay, here in the human brain particularly present of there are exactly particularly 4 ventricles, but categorized in particularly 3 categories, categorized into 3. ओके, यानी कि उसको 3 पार्ट में उसको डिवाइड किया जाता है, तो ये हमेशा ध्यान रखिए. देन पर्टिकुलरली व्हाट एग्जैक्टली फंक्शंस. ओके, lateral ventricles, that is 1 and 2, that means there are present 1 and 2 ventricles are there present. Third ventricle are present in the particularly also called as the paracyle. Okay, here present in the middle, that is called as the diocele. Then particularly this is the iter is connected with, that is the third ventricle to fourth ventricle. Then particularly also here present fourth ventricle, that is the metacyle, you know the about. Okay, तो here ये मैंने बताया था अभी मेटासिल, डायोसिल एंड पैरासिल के बारे में इससे पहले भी. ओके, तो दिस इज अ ventricles आर प्रेजेंट, दैट इज अ देयर आर प्रेजेंट सम फ्लूइड. ओके, एंड पर्टिकुलरली दिस फ्लूइड that is a functioning in nature. Okay, this fluid is functioning in nature, so that means this is a CSF here present. this cavity के अंदर क्या present है, CSF है, and CSF is a